are back, everyone, with Dwain for part two. Thank you, Dwain, for being here. You, in the first part, talked about this amazing goal setting process that you have. In this part, we're going to dive into the four-part process that has transformed the way you carry out goals. So let's dive in. Tell us about that.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. So really, most of us are good at one of these four areas typically. Like I've said this before, Jenny, you're great at taking action, right? So the process is vision is number one. We need to have a clear vision of where we want to go, right? Obviously, aligning with God is the goal there. Like if our vision is blurred, we're gonna wander, as they say, right? But if our vision is clear, we know where to go. I think when I learned I wanted financial freedom and I had a vision of what that would look like of having cash flow and I could see it, then I could formulate a plan, which is the second part, find actions that align with that plan, and then the measurement was did I hit the goal that I started out to achieve, which was my cash flow was greater than my expenses. That was a measurement, right? So the four-part process is vision, plan, action, measurement. And I would ask each of the listeners and each of you to kind of consider like, where do I know that I'm strong at? And I'll be honest, when I first started this process, I thought I was stronger in certain areas than I was. I was blind to certain areas that I had a ton of work to do. So I guess I would ask you, Jenna, Sierra, like if you were to guess which area, vision, plan, action, measurement would need the most work that like maybe is a blind spot that maybe you just jump into things and didn't necessarily formulate a plan or that you never measure progress, what would you guys say would be an area that you would need to work on the most?
I think for me, planning and measurement, because I'm really good at vision and action.
Yes.
But when it comes to like setting a methodical plan and carrying it out, I'm more like, let's just wing it. Let's just do it.
Sierra, what would you say?
I think the follow up. Like there's the vision, the plan, most of the action, and then there's always like once I complete it, there's always like the little tiny follow-ups, like the little details that's really hard for me. Just and I don't want to make excuses, but sometimes with like ADHD, it's just like the little things that are hard. So I always try and bring someone in that's really good at the little things and they help me with that. But I think for me that's the hard thing is just the follow up after I did the big check mark. It's like the little check marks that are hard.
Okay, I love that. That's great. And I think when we're self-aware and when we realize, hey, I need help in these areas, when I hear that, the first thing I want to do was create a lofty question for you to be like, how is it that I always am so detailed with the minute details and am able to follow through with exactness always, right? Like obviously we would want to add those to help strengthen that. But I think it's important to realize it's okay. Like we're kind of wired to be really strong or gifted in one area, but not to just rely on that. The goal is to expand that. Obviously, the Savior is perfectly balanced, right? And is able to vision, plan, action, measure. He knows every one of us by name, right? We are numbered, and so yeah. What are the thoughts? Like when I say this, I guess let me state you're going to take this vision, action, plan, and measurement, and you're going to go back in each areas. This is what I do. Each of the eight areas, which are social, financial, relationships, business, physical, spiritual, sexual, and emotional, and formulate a 90-day plan, like we had talked about previous, with that method of vision, plan, action, measurement. And just imagine that level of, I've heard this said before, like the sun lights the earth, right? But the second that we add a magnifying glass to the sun, we can light grass on fire. And that's what I want to do is like light our souls on fire and light our gifts on fire and like, let's go.
Yeah,
I love that analogy.
absolutely.
So let's give some examples for listeners. So this is a very real one. Dwayne and I were recently talking, and I was having a little meltdown about a guy. So I like to get personal here. So I'll just be very transparent and tell everyone that I really want a husband and children. I really want a family. It's just something I want. Hasn't worked out for me yet. I've tried really hard. And so recently I took action and took a pretty big step to just randomly fly to another state and meet this guy, which I normally wouldn't do, but his dad was setting us up. His dad was in town, and this guy had a comedy show he was starring in. So I was like, what the heck? I'm gonna take action. I'm invited. I'm gonna go out there. So I fly out there and got a little crush on this guy. And I was telling Dwayne, like, it doesn't feel like it's as reciprocal. And so Dwayne like sat down with me and talked about the four-step process. So Dwayne, tell me like your thoughts on this, and let's tell listeners like how you were helping me calm down as I'm like, I gotta find somebody.
Well, number one, I was like complete admiration for someone like you. You're blessed with courage. It's one of the attributes I value in people so much, right? So you're like, hey, I know the vision, right? I want to be married. I want to have kids. And there's a mutual contact that I have a level of trust. And anyway, I'm going to take this action, right? Clearly, we can all agree that you're amazing at taking action. So you identified your vision was clear and your action. Then we talked about, I was like, well, how long has it been? Measurement, right? And the first thing she said is, I was like, has it been a month yet? And she's like, not quite, right?
That
I'm
we've
like,
even known each other.
hey, that you've
Yeah,
even known
yeah,
each other, right?
yeah.
So I'm like, I'm guessing like so far he seems like a really solid dude. Has got his things together in a lot of areas. And maybe he's a little more methodical in planning. So maybe, Jenna, this would be a good balance for you. So let's keep this measurement in perspective. Like let's give it time and just see how this plays out. Is that what you remember? What else do you
Yeah,
remember?
yeah. And so you sat down and we went over the four categories. So you
Okay.
said, okay, you said the goal, the vision is that you want a family.
Yes.
And then you said the plan is that you're going to go on dates
Yes.
and take these opportunities, whether it's flying to another state to meet someone or getting on dating apps, finding people in different areas that it's more probable that I'll meet people. So that's the plan.
Yes.
And then the action, oh, that's like blurring plan and action.
It is. Yeah, plan and action is tough to work through. Action is much more detailed.
Okay.
Like, well, I will
Mm,
say this, my plan, and the more that I craft this, like the more I can carefully articulate the plan and like make that really detailed, the better. The action is following the plan, like the steps,
mhm.
right? So when an
Yes.
opportunity comes and you recognize like this feels like a good opportunity, you act on it. Like that's in an alignment to the vision and the plan. The action is actually taking the action, which was you hopping on a flight. That was vision, action. There wasn't
Yes.
necessarily a plan that we had crafted yet or that you had
Right.
crafted yet. You just
Right.
went based on vision, action. And we're saying, let's develop a plan, right? Which I said I would be open to dating others until you know that you're in a committed relationship or whatever. And
Yeah.
I would just be open to what God has in store. So
Yeah. So like that is my plan. Like date as many people as I can. And then the measurement in this scenario of my vision to have a family, first of all, I have to find the right person, right? To be with. And so the measurement is what are his actions? Is he showing through his actions that he really wants this? In the past, I know that like a lot of guys have said really nice words, but when it comes to actually showing me, that measurement hasn't lived up to what it needs to. And so Dwayne was like, watch the actions. Dwayne also said, watch for the fruits of the spirit, the peace, the love, the joy, the patience, all the fruits of the spirit in Galatians 5:22-23 in the New Testament. So I loved that Dwayne could just, I was having this like freak out, like, does he like me? What's going to happen next? Blah, blah, blah. And Dwayne was just like, take this into these four areas. And it was very helpful for me. Sierra, let's analyze an example for you. Let's do one for you.
Yeah. Um, So I live in Tampa. We recently had two hurricanes, Helene and Milton. And some missionaries from my church had sent some money for me to help with meals for Helene. And so they were just like, we want to help, whatever you can do. And so they sent some money for me to do these meals, and I was just like, I want to get the most that I can. I had a list of 6 families that had been really affected in our area. And for me, I had the vision of I'm gonna make what I'm gonna make. I'm gonna make this food. I'm gonna drop it off. I have the people. So that was the vision. And that was the plan, was to buy the food, make the food, drop it off, right? Like plan. But for me, so also, right, the day that I was going to do this, the next day I was getting on a flight to go to my chaplain conference. And so I was like, I do not have the gifts needed right now in this moment to execute this plan. I needed like perfect precision, planning, time, execution, order of operations. Like I just needed to be able to do this. And it's not an innate gift that I have. It's something that actually people with ADHD struggle with is like what operation to do first. And I was like, I don't have time to I'm trying to help people. I don't have time to to figure this out on my own. And I just prayed. I said, look, I need these two specific gifts of the Spirit. I need them right now, and we need to help these people. Please, Lord, you know. And it was miraculous. The amount, and I'm not kidding when I say the amount of executive processing and system organization and things that I was able to do in 4 hours of being able to cook 6 dishes, 6 pies, um, drop them all off, and get home in time to, because I had sessions that night for work. So to get home in time for those sessions was truly miraculous to the point that I had a specific prompting to not put cheese on one of them. And I didn't fully listen. I only put it on half. I should have listened because I thought I was like, oh, I don't know for sure if someone isn't dairy free. I didn't want to bring them a pasta dish without cheese. I was like, that's weird. So I only put on half, and I shouldn't have listened because I ran into someone that really just needed some tough love. Like, I'm gonna love you no matter what because you need this. And well, she was like, well, I'm dairy free. And I was like, I was prompted to give you one that didn't have dairy. I didn't fully listen, so it only has half non-dairy, but I tried. And she took the meal. And I think it's really important for me, that was my relationship with the Lord to be able to execute. And I think that there's times where we might not have the vision. We can pray for the vision. We might not have the plan. We can pray for the plan. We might not have all of the skills needed um, for the action or know quite how to measure it. And those are things we can ask for. And I think the part of the how can I that and I guess that was kind of my question. How can I execute this? How is it that I'm able to execute this? And it's with the power of the Lord. For me, that was the answer to the question. And so I think there's always this, there's so much that we can do and within our own agency. And there are things that we just need help with. And be it, a help from our higher power or from a trusted source or friend or colleague or whatever, we can find a way, even if it's not through our own means. So those are some of my thoughts.
Preach it. I love it. I hope everybody understands that like we are in the presence of like chaplains, right? Like you guys lead others. You like I just am so inspired. That was amazing. Sierra, I want to point out something because watching you think through this process is exactly my experience. And there were a couple things in there as I was listening that were kind of blurred. Like, and Jenna did the same thing. Like, wait, the vision was I was going to plan to make the, wait, hold on. Actually, that was the plan. The vision was to help others. The vision was to heal hearts. The vision was to bring God to them, right? And so it's so healthy for each of us. I'm still figuring out this process. Like, please don't think I'm coming on as an expert. Is that when we put it in this format, it really helps us think through because naturally we're going to gravitate to the areas we're strong to. And we might conflate those with that's this or that's this. But when we put it down on paper, we can kind of like it's taken me months to go back and even learn this process. Like, wait, vision, plan, action, measurement. Does that make sense? Like it's easy to kind of mesh them together. So that was beautiful.
Yeah, and I really love, Sarah, how you talk about including God in this process and the inspiration from the divine to know how to carry it out, and we'll be refining. Dwayne, thanks for sharing that you're still learning. It's so rich with meaning to dive into these practices. So, Dwayne, is there anything else you'd like to say about goal setting?
Yeah, there's actually one more thing. I actually prepared something for you, Jenna. So there's one thing that I like to do is we find joy in life when we do the things that we love. And I think it's important to formulate a list. So I have like my favorites list and I measure those every single day of whether I did them or not. And so throughout, I just kind of go on. I have like a Google sheet or an Excel and I've got all my goals on it. But I want to give an example. So like Jenna, here's some things that you could start as far as a favorites list that I would guess of things that you've said in the past. Number one, you like hikes, so I would write down the number of hikes and which ones that you've done, the museums attended, the books that you've read. You enjoy art, so finding something to kind of measure within that world, if it's number of art galleries or wherever you find joy in that, places traveled to, and then maybe number of podcasts recorded. And I would just say that like take each area, 8 areas of your life and try to find favorites within those, and then make sure we're doing those things that we love. So you had said that I love smoothies. We do smoothie celebrations every morning and every night with my kids, and we make a smoothie, and most times we celebrate the day and toast it. And so that's just one thing that's a relationship thing. And anyway, I just wanted to add that, just something fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're measuring things that bring joy and meaning, not only growth goals, but meaning, purpose, finding peace and joy now goals.
Present,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah, being
Live
present.
live the life now. Yes.
Yeah, I love that, especially from a therapist perspective. I'm trained in dialectical behavioral therapy, and one of the goals is building a life worth living. And I love the idea that you can have control right now over your life. If your life isn't, going the way that you thought it would, you want to be traveling more, you want to be doing more things that you enjoy, figure out what it is that figure out what those things are that bring you joy, and then be intentional about doing them, set goals and plan and schedule them into your life and then do them. I love that it doesn't have to be future things. It can be things right now of I love going for walks and just focusing intentionally on going for those walks every day. I love that.
Yeah, too often it's easy to put off those things, right? I find myself a lot in life putting off the joyful, fun things because I'm like, oh, this isn't an urgent need. But our lives can transform when we make time and space now to find joy. If we don't find joy and follow the peace now, we likely won't do it later. So thank you, Dwayne, for inspiring us to do this now. Much for joining us for part two of our episode with Dwain Schallenberger. Join us for part three, where we are going to discuss romantic and sexual intimacy and spirituality. This is Guiding Light. I'm Jenna Carson,
I'm Sierra Larson.
and we hope you follow the peace.